Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be doing an electoral map scenario in which incumbent President Joe Biden were to win the popular vote by roughly exactly 3%. And now keep in mind, he won it by 4 points last time, and Hillary Clinton won it by 2% back in 2016. So if you are curious or wondering why I'm choosing the number 3% to be exact, is because if you average out Joe Biden's popular vote percentage to Hillary Clinton, you would get exactly 3%. So, which is a pretty interesting scenario. It could possibly be realistic. So, I'm going to be filling out the electoral map in a scenario in which Joe Biden were to win it by 3%, how that would look like. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed as you're approaching 3,000 and click the bell so you don't miss out on any content. Also, we have memberships, so if you're interested in that, you can find a link in the description section. Now, back to the topic of today's video. Let's begin with some of these swing states. So right off the bat, I can guarantee you right now, Iowa and Ohio, both of those states would be likely for the former president. Not too competitive. It's just not in reach for Joe Biden, as well as Florida. I think Trump should win that by like 6 points. If Biden were to win the popular vote by 3 points, regardless, I just think it's out of reach. Republicans tremendously out-register Democrats in the state of Florida, and they've just gained in terms of Hispanic voters, especially Cuban Americans. They just trended towards the right. And DeSantis flipped Miami-Dade County in the 2022 midterm. So overall, Florida is kind of out of reach for Democrats at this point in time. And then I also do think states like Colorado would be actually solid blue for Joe Biden if he were to win the popular vote by 3 points, to be exact. I think he should crack double digits as he did in 2020 by like 10 points. And I also think he would win New Mexico by roughly like 8%, somewhere around there, 8 to 9 points. If he were to win the popular vote by 3%, I just think both of those states are just getting bluer, and Republicans keep thinking they can, be in play in New Mexico and make it somewhat competitive. They keep thinking that, but every single election, it's just always likely to solid blue. And then I also think Virginia would go to Biden by like 7 points if he wins the popular vote by like 3%. I also think he would win the state of New Hampshire by a likely margin of somewhere in between 5 or 6 percentage points. Now keep in mind, New Hampshire is indeed an anti-incumbent state, and Donald Trump is the challenger. And so with that being said, it will get closer than where it was, but recent polling actually shows that Biden is performing better in the state of New Hampshire than where he is in every other swing state. Biden is doing better in New Hampshire than he is in Minnesota, according to the polls. So maybe this is one swing state where he actually can perform very well in. I also still think, regardless, Trump is likely to win the state of Texas, considering the major border crisis that we now have. I think he should win it by 6 points if Biden does win the popular vote by exactly 3% in that scenario. And I also do think that Biden's going to win Minnesota by roughly 4 to 5 points if he were to win the popular vote by 3%. Now, keep in mind, he does not have that BLM momentum or what happened to George Floyd that he had in Minneapolis back in 2020. So keep in mind, those suburbs in Minneapolis are actually shifting towards the left and trending in favor of Democrats. And I honestly think it comes down to suburban women, issues like abortion. I think if that can drive voters to the polls, it can go in favor of Joe Biden. And I think if he were to win a popular vote by 3%, I think he's going to win Minnesota by roughly 4 to 5 points in 2024. And as for North Carolina, regardless if Biden does or does not win the popular vote by 3 points in this year's election, I still think Trump will hang on to the state of North Carolina by roughly a couple points, maybe 1 to 2%, because he won it back in 2020 by 1.5% when Biden won the popular vote by 4 points. So because I have the popular vote being 1% better, I still think Trump is going to win North Carolina by roughly 2% in this particular scenario. Republicans have gained tremendously in new registered voters in the state. In my opinion, North Carolina is actually getting redder than a lot of people may think. And regardless if Mark Robinson does or does not win on the governorship, I still do expect Trump to outperform him at the end of the day. And as for some of the Rust Belt states, I think Biden will narrowly carry his own home state of Pennsylvania if he's able to hang on to his 2020 margins in Philadelphia or the Pittsburgh suburbs, or typically Democratic stronghold counties. I think he might be able to pull off an air victory in the state of Pennsylvania. And if he's able to hold on to Erie County, which was a breaking point county for him back in 2020, I think he can win Pennsylvania. And Trump actually won it in 2016, but Biden won it in 2020. And so Donald Trump actually did not perform very well in Erie County. Nikki Haley got a lot of that vote share, so that could be scary. It's going to come down to the hardworking class, those blue-collar workers, and issues like the economy, inflation really matters to these types of voters. So I think if Biden is able to put out the right messaging and say, the economy is doing good, even though people don't feel it, I think he might win Pennsylvania, considering that he has, recognition in this state, and he really can connect to those voters because it's his home state, obviously. And then as for Michigan, despite Trump receiving more votes in the primaries than Biden, even when he was facing Nikki Haley as a challenger, that's not good news for Biden. But I still think the margin for him in the state was pretty significant, in 2020. He won it by 2.8%, so nearly 3%. And even if Trump may perform better in Michigan, it still might not be enough for him to overcome at the end of the day. So Biden's nearly going to hang on to this state by around 1% if he were to win the popular vote by 3 points in 2024. Gretchen Whitmer had an amazing performance in the 2022 midterms, and she has publicly endorsed President Biden. And so with that being said, if she can carry him to a possible victory, I think that may be a real possibility at this point. Keep in mind, she won by like double digits in 2022. She's a very popular governor. And so maybe that endorsement from her can actually help Joe Biden and carry him over, because obviously Biden is going to underperform her at the end of the day. So it really matters if Gretchen Whitmer can carry him or not. So we'll see if that endorsement helps him ultimately. And I also do think that Georgia is going to go to Donald Trump by a couple points, even if Biden wins the popular vote by 3%. I just think that he's not going to get that high enough turnout that he got among African-American voters that he got in 2020. He got like nearly 90% among that minority group. And places like Atlanta, the suburbs, metropolitan area, if Biden does not hold on to his numbers, I think the state is more than likely flippable for Donald Trump in 2024, considering that the margin was just extremely narrow, like 10,000 votes of 0.3%. So I just think Georgia was way too close for Biden to win it a second time. And then as for Wisconsin, I think even if Biden wins the popular vote by 3%, despite that, I do expect Donald Trump to carry the state narrowly by under percentage point at the end of the day, considering that he won the state back in 2016 by 0.7%, which is actually a greater margin than what Biden won it by in 2020 by 0.6%. I think it's going to come down to Milwaukee. If Joe Biden does not hold on to his numbers that he got in 2020 in the state, it's going to be very hard for him to win. I think it's going to come down to those 20,000 voters that Biden won it by. And if Trump does flip those 20,000, then he's obviously going to win the state. And if Trump can run up the numbers in Green Bay or these Republican stronghold counties, I think Trump's on track to win Wisconsin, even if Biden wins the popular vote by 3% in 2024. I have two more states that fell out before we end out this video, Nevada and Arizona, in which I think Biden will win both of those states by tilt margins of roughly 1%. If you were to win the popular vote by exactly 3% in this type of scenario. I think, honestly, if Biden were to win Nevada, it's probably because of Clark County and the Vegas area, basically a Democratic stronghold that's basically helping Joe Biden actually win the state. Because other than that, if Clark County never existed, Nevada would always vote Republican. And if Biden's able to hold on to Reno County or Washoe, in northwest Nevada, I think he may be able to, hold on to the state as he did in 2020. And I do want to mention that he did not overperform Hillary Clinton's margins in the state when the whole entire nation shifted towards the left in 2020. That one state that didn't was Nevada, and it had the same margin for Biden and Clinton. So he did not outperform Clinton in the state. I just want to mention that. But still, I just think it's going to be hard for Trump to, overcome the votes for Biden in a Democratic stronghold like Clark County. And then as for Arizona, this is actually a left trendy state. Democrats have been gaining tremendously in registered voters, and they just elected a Democratic governor in the 2022 midterms, Katie Hobbs, in which no one expected her to win. She ran a disastrous campaign, and the fact that she still won when she literally was not even campaigning goes to show you that this state is truly trending blue to the left in favor of Democrats. And I truly do think if Biden were to win the popular vote by 3% in 2024, I expect Arizona to vote for him just how it did in 2020. And this state, keep in mind, is getting very blue. Expected to be a Democratic state in the future. If not, it's a very swing state at this point. And I expect Maricopa County to vote for Biden if he were to win the state again. Maricopa County is actually getting more bluer. And you also have these people from California going down to the state of Arizona, and it's going to trend the state bluer if they do bring their political views with them. So at the end of the day, this is the finalized 2024 election map in a scenario in which Joe Biden wins the popular vote by 3%. Keep in mind, the reason why I chose 3 as the number is because if you average Hillary Clinton's margin of the popular vote back in 2016 and you compare it to Joe Biden, you would get exactly 3% because she won it by 2 and Joe Biden won it by 4. So that's where I get the number 3% from, if you just are wondering, as another reminder. So 277 electoral votes for Joe Biden. He's going to win re-election, defeating Donald Trump once again at 261 electoral votes. So let me know if you agree with this overall map, what states you disagree with or agree with in the comment section down below, and your overall thoughts on the margins for every single swing state. One last final reminder before I end out this video is to subscribe as we're approaching 3,000 subscribers, and click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my content. Also, if you are interested, we have memberships. You can find a link to that in the description section. So that's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.